is the final day, grand finale. We have Victoria Lowe, and Victoria will be talking about steps to take to avoid burnout and improve your mental health. This particular topic cannot be overemphasized, right? Because it is something we go through on our um day-to-day work life, right? We get tired trying to combine work and your personal life together and stuff. So it's most times overwhelming, and we sometimes just end up being burnt out, right? So Victoria will be talking about understanding the signs and causes of burnouts and mental health issues, developing self-care strategies for managing stress and promoting well-being, building resilience and coping skills to handle workplace challenges, and creating a supportive work environment and seeking professional help when needed. Creating a work-life balance, right? So we are going to be doing amazing stuff today. However, we are to use just 1 hour because Victoria have other appointments right after this event. So let's just dive right in. So I'll stop sharing my screen so that Victoria can share us, and then I'm going to launch the pool, and then we get started. Are you ready for us, Victoria?
Yes, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is the pool. Just 1 minute, please. Can you all just quickly put in your answers in 1 minute? Thank you. Interesting. Like, I think it's just like most of us here have gone through burnout before. I could share a story of burnout too.
Yeah.
All right. So amazing. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. We have 20 more seconds to go. Okay. Interesting. Great. So about 88%, 88% has gone through mental health. I mean, burnout before. And yeah, the 13% that haven't, I really want to say congratulations, and you should just keep up on how you have been maintaining it. So Victoria, yes, the results.
Yep, I think that is quite what I expected. Yeah,
Right.
so thanks everyone for the vote. So yeah, can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yep, you can see my screen. Okay, cool. So yeah, first of all, thanks Bami for inviting me here. I think it's been a while since we last talked, and it's always a pleasure to be here. Yeah, so basically today I want to talk to you guys about avoiding burnt out as a developer. Yeah, so I just made this really happy looking slides just because, you know, it's about mental health and yellow represents happiness. So yeah, just following the color of psychology here. Okay, but yeah, let's get started. So nice to meet everyone. Let me first introduce myself before we get started. So my name is Victoria Lowe. I am a solutions engineer at PayPal. I am also a technical blogger and writer, and I'm also a GitHub star and a speaker and also a woman who code leader. So yeah, it seems like I'm doing a lot, which I am, but I have time to do all. So yeah, so today I'm basically wearing the speaker hat. So yeah, I'm gonna be speaking to you today. So yeah, you can find me at my blog at low-victoria.com. I'm pretty active there. All my links is also there. You may check it out. I write web development tips. I also write about personal growth and development, about my journey into tech, because I actually pivoted from a non-tech industry and then I become a tech person. So yeah, if you're curious about that, feel free to check out my blog. And also, I thought it's kind of boring if I just tell you, like, you know, my occupation and stuff. So I also added games, like hobbies. So yeah, I play video games, I read a lot of books, and I also like tea. So yeah, that's why this is my profile pic. Um, okay, so now that you know a little bit about me, I'm just gonna share with you like the agenda for today. So I think everyone always reads with stories. So first, I want to share about how I personally deal with burnt out and how I realized that I'm burnt out. And next, I'll be talking about what is exactly burnt out, then also the causes of burnt out, and finally, some tips to overcome burnt out and how you can build that coping resilience in your workplace to have that work-life balance. So yeah, that's all like the whole thing that I'm going to be talking about for today. If you have any questions in the middle of the presentation, feel free to just stop me. So you can raise your hand or anything. And if I don't notice, maybe Bami can stop me and let me know. Because I kind of want the session to be as interactive as possible, as conversational as possible. So not like just me giving you a lecture and then wait until the end for questions. So yeah, feel free to stop me anytime if you have any questions. Yeah, so first, let me talk about a short story, if you don't mind listening, basically about how I got my first burnt out. So as you noticed before, I took a lot of roles. I'm a GitHub star, I'm a writer, I also have a full-time job. So a lot of those things, though I enjoy those jobs, sometimes I felt that I don't have enough personal time. And I never really thought it was a big deal until I think around 2021, when it was during the pandemic. And I felt like quite a loss of motivation. And also I felt like there was like no time for me to actually recover from a lot of things. Um, to me, before then, I thought burnt out is just something that's exhaustion. It's just simple fatigue. Like you can overcome it through sleep and rest. But it's actually more than that. Burnt out is also the feeling of just losing motivation, and also having like just losing that goals, like no more personal goals basically. So that's why I felt that burnt out during the pandemic season, because I was like doing a lot of freelancing writing, I was doing my full-time job, and then I was also doing a lot of hackathons back to back. And that's when I realized that I was burnt out, because no matter how much I try to sleep or try to rest, when I come back to that activity, it always makes me feel quite exhausted and mentally tired. Yeah. And so that's when I finally believed that burnt out is a thing. And of course, the WHO, so the World Health Organization, actually did classify burnt out as a major global health challenge. So what that means is they're actually predicting more and more people to experience burnt out in their workplaces in the future. So yeah, it's actually a pretty serious condition, and many people just think it can be easily cured through rest, but it's actually not. It's different from mental fatigue, which I'm actually going to explain to you what it is. So yeah, what burnt out actually is. So according to the definition by the World Health Organization, burnt out is a syndrome that's conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress and has not been successfully managed. So usually for burnt out, you'll feel these three symptoms, which is the feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, just day to day, just every day, even after lots of rest. Increase mental distance from one's job. So you just feel like a certain gap, like a certain emotional distance. You no longer feel as motivated for work.
Sorry
Okay.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought someone might have a question. Yeah, so basically you're just feeling that increased emotional distance. You also might feel less positive and less, you feel more negative in your day-to-day work. And finally, you'll feel really a loss of productivity. You just feel like you couldn't get anything done. So those are like the three main characteristics that you will feel if you have burnt out. Yeah. So as you can see, the emphasis is on workplace stress. So it's primarily focusing on what you feel during your work, basically. And so now let me share with you some common causes of burnt out. So a lot of the things that causes burnt out is actually, like we mentioned, in the definition, it's causes by workplace stress. But what causes workplace stress? So it's usually uncertainty at work. Maybe there's been a lot of layoffs and you just felt there's no job security. You felt like your performance in your job does not really secure this job, basically. It feels there's a lot of uncertainty in terms of your future with this company that could cause burnt out. Maybe you have a lack of goals, so you don't feel like there's anything that you want to pursue in the company that you in your job. So that's why you're feeling unmotivated. That could also cause burnout. Next, I think this is the most common one, which is overworking. You feel overwhelmed in your job. You have a lot of things to do and it just seems to never get done. So that's why you felt stressed and burnt out. Next is also lack of boundaries. So this is also similar to overworking, but for lack of boundaries, it's basically because you feel like your work and life is the same type. Like you don't feel like you have life outside work. Your work is life. So this can also cause burnt out. And finally, this one is more about your coworkers or just the company culture itself. So maybe the people around you make your work less you feel less satisfied at work because of maybe coworkers. You feel less rewarded or less recognized at work. Maybe it's the company culture. So yeah, so all these are common causes of burnout, and you can see that all of them is related to some like your job, your work, and all that. So yeah, this is what usually you have to do for the first step. So if you feel like you do have burnt out, the first step is to actually identify the cause of it so that you can kind of find the steps to cure it. So yeah, basically the causes of burnt out. And then basically my advice is you can try to self-reflect on your emotions, understand why you're feeling the burnt out, so that way you can overcome it and prevent it in the future. Yeah, so as we've seen from the poll, a lot of people, about 88% is feeling burnt out. So maybe you can take your time after this session or maybe whenever you're free to reflect on what causes your burnt out. So yeah, I think now we can move on to some tips. So basically my common tip is take frequent breaks. I know that burnt out is not just cured with simply just resting. That's what I mentioned before. That's how my story of my own burnt out. However, by taking frequent breaks, this is also a prevention method because you have to recognize that we are not machines. Humans are not machines. We need to rest. So basically, I know that we are all expected to work 8 hours, 9 hours a day, but having small breaks in between actually helps you to disconnect from the screens, disconnect from any distractions, disconnect from those thoughts. Like imagine if you have like unhappy coworkers around you or something. It actually helps you distance yourself from it a bit by taking those frequent breaks. So yeah, actually there's been studies also that if you spend 20 minutes a day in nature, it will boost your mood and energy. So I also recommend taking walks, maybe in parks, beaches, anywhere where you can see green or blue. That actually helps you with your energizing your mood. So personally, for my story, how I overcome my burnt out is I take a walk like out in the sun for 20 minutes a day. And I felt that actually helped me a lot when I'm trying to overcome that burnt out. So yeah, that's my first tip. So the next one would be practice self-care. This is something that, because we're all in tech, we're quite focused in our work usually when we're coding or like when we're doing like any technical stuff. Like that gets really easy for you to forget your meals, to forget eating, to forget standing up. So all those actually can lead to poor mental health. So by practicing self-care, you can start with exercising. If you don't like working out, maybe try playing sports, because I personally don't like going to the gym and like just run. Like to me, it's kind of boring. So exercising, I think you can find sports to play. I like to play like all kinds of sports, so that actually helps. And then eat healthy. So yeah, this one is quite obvious, but yeah, by eating healthy, you're actually feeding your brain with good nutrition that actually helps boost your mood as well, keeps you positive and keeps you healthy. Next is reduce your stressors. So actually it's good to find out what causes your burnt out, but it's also good to find out what directly causes the stress. So for example, if you're burnt out is because of toxic coworkers, because maybe this person is always like giving you negative energy around you, then you have to know how to reduce them. So maybe like don't avoid being like too meet them too often, or like try to just keep your distance if you think this coworker is being toxic or being negative to you. So by doing that, you're reducing your stressors, and that actually helps you a lot in the future. Next is you can also, this is another self-care tip that I personally did, is recording your emotions or mood in a journal. Because by doing that, you're actually trying to regulate your emotion. You'll understand better what you're feeling at that time, and that actually helps you stay mindful of your stress. You can record in a journal, in a physical journal, or even an app. You can mention like, oh, today I'm not feeling that great. What happened? So that way you are more aware about what is it in the long run. You can like see if there's a pattern that's causing the stress. You can see when are days that you don't feel good, when are days that you do feel good. So that way you can manage your stress levels better. And finally, good quality sleep. So yeah, I ensure about 8 hours of sleep a day, 7 to 8 hours. And it has to be good quality sleep. I know it's easier said than done, but there's a lot of studies that shows that good quality sleep actually helps improve mood and mental health. So this is something that you can try. A good tip to get good quality sleep is to actually sleep at the same time and wake up at the same time every day, because that way your body is already used to the biological rhythm, and that can actually help you get better good quality sleep. So yeah, that's the practice self-care tip. So next is managing your energy. So like what I mentioned before in the definition of burnt out, it's caused by workplace stress that is poorly managed. So by managing your energy, it's actually it's a way to overcome burnt out. So this is what I found out when I experienced burnt out, is that burnt out is not from poor time management, but it's from poor energy management. Because personally for me, I can manage my time effectively since I have different jobs and I can prioritize differently, but I still felt burnt out. It's because I manage my energy poorly. Basically, everything that I manage, it's energy draining, then it could potentially be bad for my mental health. So I would say identify things that energizes you and things that drains you. For example, what energizes you? Maybe walking in a park, that energizes you. And then you find what drains you. Maybe it's coding, because sometimes that can be quite draining. So maybe coding for 2 hours, that drains you. So always balance your energy that way. So if you know what drains you and what energizes you, and then you balance it. So after coding for 2 hours, make sure you take a walk in the park. So that way your energy is always net. It's not like constantly going down and down, negative. So I think that is one way that you can do to manage your energy. And of course, you have to be always mindful of that energy level so that you can balance the drainers and the energizers. Yeah. So a way that I like to do is I like to just create myself a simple table that I can organize into what energizes me, what drains me, and then I make sure that I alternate between the two activities just to keep the balance there. So I manage the energy well. Yeah. And this is actually a book recommendation because I recently read this book called Deep Work by Cal Newport. Not sure if any of you read it before, but it's pretty interesting. So it talks about deep work. Deep work is basically what you call a smart way to spend your time. Basically, it's like productive time. And many studies have found, like from this author, from this book, says that if you engage in deep work more, you actually feel more fulfilled and you feel more focused throughout your day. So this is a book I recommend. You can check out this book so that you can find out how you can engage in deep work more. But basically, I have a few tips that you can get started, which is eliminating distractions. So in order to do deep work, which is like undisturbed focused work, you have to eliminate distractions. So I think the main causes of distractions would be your phone. So when you're trying to do something productive, like maybe coding, you have to eliminate things that distracts you. I would say a lot of my readers have mentioned to me how they find it very hard to stay focused and working. It's because of their working environment. So it could be because their table is cluttered, or like there's a lot of things in their table. So also decluttering your work environment is a way to eliminate distractions, because studies have shown that if you actually have a more clean workspace, you'll be more focused. So yeah, try to eliminate those kind of distractions so you can feel more fulfilled and more productive. Yeah. And yeah, so the second one, feel more fulfilled, I already mentioned it. And the third one, block time to do it. So in order to do focus work, it's actually better that you plan when you want to do it, not like spontaneously decide you want to do productive work, because sometimes if you do that, that usually never happen. Okay, let me stop because I think we have some Q&A. Can a hobby, so Mark asks, can a hobby be energizers? Yes, so hobby is actually definitely a good energizer, because that's something you enjoy, that's something that you like. So definitely, yes. Yes. How about someone with insomnia? How can he have enough rest? So insomnia is actually a health condition, right? It's something that, oh, sorry. I think someone. Okay. Yeah. No worries. Yeah. So someone with insomnia, I would say that is a little bit harder, because insomnia is a different medical issue. It's something that you have to kind of talk to a professional about. If you do have insomnia, I suggest you talk to a professional why you have it, identify its cause. It could be another reason why. But sometimes burnt out also can lead to insomnia. So you need to find out which is the main cause, right? I'm not a healthcare professional, so I can't really give advice on that. Okay, next, Sir Kelvin asks, how does one manage burnt out when having tight deadlines? Yeah, so that's actually what I want to also talk about later, but I can talk about it now. So yeah, part of the causes of burnt out that I mentioned is overwhelming, right? Like you feel overworked, you feel like you have too much load. So tight deadlines, this is something that I will answer in the later slides. So yeah, but thanks for the question. Okay, so now let me go to the next tip so I can answer your question. Yeah, so actually reaching out is also a very important way to overcome burnt out. So a lot of the times when you have burnt out is when it's caused by workplace stress. It could be due to coworkers, like I mentioned, and it's actually one of the number one reasons why someone would feel burnt out is because of the company culture or the workers. So the first thing you have to do is to build good relationship with your coworkers. I know that it is quite impossible to get along with every single person, but at least you have to be in a good neutral kind of relationship. And I know the pandemic, because I joined my company during the pandemic as well, it's hard to build that relationship, I have to be honest, because everything is done virtually. We're always talking just through cameras and all that. Every time when we meet, it's always for a purpose, it's always for a meeting, for something, for work. We never really have a chance to like just have a coffee chat outside of work. So actually building a way that I strategize, that I come up with to build good relationship, is actually schedule a different meeting. Like even out, like during work hours, you can say, hey, like, I really enjoyed, your presentation on this, I want to talk to you more about things, can we have like a virtual coffee chat? So that's actually what I did during the pandemic. And I find that it really helps me bond with my coworkers, like just beyond the work. So they're just not people that I just talk to with on just work, but we can also talk about our hobbies or common interests or anything. And that actually builds good relationship. It fosters a supportive work environment for you, and you feel more better. You feel like you'll enjoy your work better when you have like a team that's supporting behind you. So yeah, I would say don't be afraid to reach out to them and communicate. And if you have any issues with like a particular coworker, maybe you disagree with them on something, maybe you misunderstood something from them, then I think it's even more important that you communicate as fast as possible and work out any issues that you might have. So yeah, that is what you can do in your workplace. But another thing that I found out what worked for me when I have burnt out is I find communities outside my workplace. So this is pretty good because you can meet new people that's not just in your workplace. You can, like, for example, Bami, I meet her outside when I was like doing my side hustle, so not during my full-time job, right? I think that's also a great way you can bond with other people, make good relationships, and that actually also can it can heal you in some way, right? Because you're meeting some people that that you have common interests with and you like. So yeah, finding communities is also a good way for you to basically overcome that burnt out and meet new people at the same time. And this is what one of my friends like to call it. They say find your tribe. So a tribe is basically like a close-knit community with like a lot of like-minded people. And finding tribes, it will go a long way for you because you'll always be able to come back to them when you need support, when you need help. I would say it's not easy to find a tribe, but if you're interested, I'm kind of shamelessly promoting Meet Myself here, but this is I'm part of Women Who Code. So if you want to join Women Who Code, we are more than happy to give you that support system. So Women Who Code is a non-for-profit organization. So we will have like events for you, for maybe job hunting, mentorship, and all that. You will find a lot of people who are like maybe trying to navigate their way around tech. Maybe that can be your tribe. Yeah, I'm just putting it out there. You don't have to join if you don't want to. So yeah, and Women Who Code, yeah, I know a lot of people say to me like, oh, is it only for women? My answer is no, because we're just trying to help women excel in tech careers, but it's open for both women, men. So yeah, just putting it out there. Next is proactively communicate. So I think I briefly mentioned about this is any problems you have with your coworkers, company, try to communicate to the person that can best help you. So for example, if you have a problem with your coworkers, maybe communicate with them to work out the issues. If you have problem with what Sir Kelvin mentioned before, tight deadlines, is there a way you can find a balance with that? Maybe try communicating to your manager, like you can mention, hey, this is really something like I'm working my best at, but it's just too much for me to handle right now. Is there anyone who can maybe offload a little bit of my work, or so that we can meet the deadline? Or is there a way we can adjust this deadline so that we can have this better quality kind of product out? So yeah, it's always good to just try to communicate. I'm not saying it always will work, but it's always better to try than not. And sometimes you'll surprise yourself that 9 out of 10 times people will be willing to compromise if you're communicating sincerely about that. This is something that you're concerned about, you're worried about, and they might want to help you. Yeah. So it all is like a huge part of like overcoming burnt out. It's like this is both overcoming burnt out as well as preventing burnt out. Is basically you have to continuously build good relationships with people and continuously communicate with people. Yeah. And of course, last but not least, if this is something that's been ongoing for a long time and something that is difficult for you to talk about to maybe your coworkers or your manager, then you can seek professional help. This one is, I would mention, this one is for me, just this is my personal opinion. If you seek professional help, it will be like kind of like last resort. Because for example, if you seek outside professional help, like a therapist or something, sure, you can talk to them about your problems. Maybe you'll feel better, but it won't really directly solve the workplace issue, right? So this is seeking professional help if needed, is basically if you need someone to listen to you, if you need someone to talk to you, maybe give you some advice, but you still need to directly face the problem if it's an ongoing problem with like a coworker or something. Yeah. So I'm gonna pause here because I think I say a lot, and look at the questions. So Mark so Mark asks which durations are recommended for one to focus on energizers. Yeah, so I would say it's about the intensity of the activity. So how much that activity energizes you versus the duration. You can have 1 hour of maybe something that's draining, like maybe you are in a meeting for 1 hour versus 1 hour of your hobby. Sometimes it does not translate one to one. So I wouldn't look at it as duration, but I will look at it as like quality, like an intensity of that energizer. So for example, maybe 1 hour of meeting that drains you, maybe just 10%. Then you can find an activity that energizes you after the meeting, maybe taking a walk for 10 minutes. See, like it's not exactly 1 hour like the drainers, but it already energizes you that 10% up. So yeah, I think this is something that requires a lot of self-reflection. That's why I recommend like making a table. That's what I did. I think that can help you at least know which kind of energy drainers, which kind of energy energizers that helps you. So in terms of also the quantity and the quality. So yeah, you can look at both. So yeah, thanks for the question. Oh yeah, and then Mark again asks another good question. Is it good to keep quiet during burnt out? So I'm not really sure what you mean keep quiet. It means like not talking to anyone about it? Or what? Maybe you can clarify that question.
Mark, if you can unmute your mic and speak.
I think that you can, for example, just keeping quiet, you not sharing with other people your problems, that you keep quiet. Is it good?
I personally, I feel it's not really good to keep things to yourself, because you'll find it really hard to manage afterwards, because it'll bottle up and then it might lead to something worse. But I believe everyone have different coping mechanisms. So if you find it easier for you to keep quiet, at least write it down somewhere so you are aware of your own emotions. If you just keep quiet and bottling it and you haven't let it out, then that can cause you a bit more stress. That's what I feel, because during my burnt out, I was like that too. I keep quiet and I didn't take care. I didn't write it down, and I felt that was difficult, because after a while you will really find out that this is something that really bothers you. And only after I start maybe talking to more people and actually reaching out to communities, then my burnt out fades away. So that's why I say you can keep quiet if you're not comfortable sharing, that's fine, but you still have to reach out to maybe people, like just talk to your loved ones, talk to your family about anything. You don't have to talk about your burnt out if that's not something you're comfortable with. But I think talking with someone actually always helps you in terms of mental health. It always helps you at least feel like you have a supportive kind of system behind you. So yeah, you can try to do that. I hope that answers your question. Okay, wait, sorry, let me just. Okay, so Francis asks, does taking breaks in between long hours help prevent burnout? Yes, that actually does. I mentioned it in tip number 1, taking frequent breaks. So like, again, I already mentioned, we work for 9 hours, it's hard to actually work consistently for 9 hours. I don't think anyone can ever do that. We actually have to take breaks in between, right? I'm sure you take breaks in between, but I'll say take more frequent breaks. In the past, I think I take breaks every like 3 hours. That's okay, but see, it depends on the person. I think a very good statistics, like a paper that I read, they say most humans, their concentration span is about 1.5 hours. So I recommend actually taking breaks after 1.5 hours. And it's also good for your eyes, because we're always looking at screens. It's not really good, right? So by taking breaks frequently, after 1 to 2 hours every time, take a 20-minute break, go out, stretch, walk, drink some water. I think that really helps you a long way. So yeah, thanks for the question. Okay. Yep. So, okay. So any more questions? I think for now I can move on. So yeah, I think the last tip I have, tip number 5, is that life is not work. So setting those boundaries. This is something I struggle with because I have so much side hustles outside of my full-time job. So many people ask me, how do you blog? How do you still have a full-time job? How do you freelance? How do you do all this and you can still survive, basically? And to that, I said, no, I don't survive. I'm just existing. That's why I was burnt out. Yeah. So that's why this is what I've learned in the last few years after I do this. Like now I'm used to it, of course, because I set work-life boundaries. So how do you set work-life boundaries? First, I think a lot of people have the mindset that you are working for this company, you owe them, you have to work your bones for them. But my friend, she worked at Microsoft, she told me, no, you actually don't owe the company anything. They're compensating you for their work. So don't think you owe the company. So that is her mindset. And I find it really refreshing and brutally honest as well, which is nice. So yeah, basically you don't owe the company. You work during the work hours that the company policy specify for you. If the company say you work from 9 to 6, then you work from 9 to 6. If the company say you work from 9 to 9, unfortunately 12 hours, then you work 9 to 9. But still, you shouldn't try to work outside of that. I've seen a lot of times engineers, they still making pull requests at like 3 a.m. in the morning. That's not within their working hours. That's not work-life boundaries. So yeah, I don't think that's healthy for them. In the long run, they get tired really easily. They get really sleepy during meetings, like afternoon meetings, which is not productive for them. So yeah, I don't think it's good to actually, I know we as developers, we as engineers, software engineers, we like to really be focused. We like to work hard, right? Like you just want to finish that feature. So that's why you stay up until 3 a.m. to do it. But it's really not worth it in the long run. That's what I'm trying to say. So setting that work-life boundaries. Know that your life isn't work and work isn't life. You have life outside of work. So I think Mark have mentioned this before. Does hobbies help? Yes, actually. So finding hobbies and activities that you enjoy outside work can help you overcome any work-related burnt out. So what I did for my burnt out is I did some painting. I painted a lot during my burnt out phase. Like I try to get away from the screens basically, because the screens is really like damaging my eyes for a long time. So that's why I try to find hobbies where I don't need to do with screens. It doesn't have anything to do with screens. So I try to paint, I try to read more books, I try to go out more. So yeah, all these kind of hobbies is actually really good for you. It energizes you. And even better, if you can enjoy these hobbies or activities with someone, then you'll enjoy them better. So yeah, that is one tip. Next is also maybe if you have a passion or a cause that you want to support, then you can try volunteering or meeting people outside work. So it's like your workplace is not your only social circle. So you'll meet other people outside your workplace, you know? So for me, it's like my blogging friends. I have blogging friends. I have Women Who Code team that I'm volunteering at. So, and I have Bami. So yeah, so basically meeting people outside work, it always energizes me. That's what I felt, because it's something refreshing. You'll meet people with different perspectives from you, right? Not just talking to you about work all the time. It helps you distract yourself outside work. So yeah. So if you are passionate about maybe puppies, you volunteer at a puppy shelter, right? So for me, I want to volunteer at Women Who Code because I believe in the cause of helping like the women, marginalized communities to excel in their tech careers. So that's why I volunteer there. So yeah, so find your cause. It gives you a good purpose outside of work. So then you can help you get away from that burnt out. So next is setting personal goals. Another cause that I mentioned earlier that causes burnt out is you lack goals, right? At work, you lack goals and you feel unmotivated. So if your work nature is naturally like that, maybe it's like a startup culture where like, you know, no one is really doing anything but like focusing on that product, then it's hard to set your own goals, right? Your personal goals to feel fulfilled in that kind of job. Then you can try setting your own personal goals. So outside of work, it actually helps to fulfill your own like personal needs. So what is meaningful to you, you can spend some time to reflect on that. you can also spend some time to reflect. How do you want to spend your time on, like in your spare time? Like, what do you want to improve on about yourself? Maybe there's a new language you always wanted to learn. Maybe there's a new instrument you always wanted to learn. Or is there something like any skill that you want to learn, a tech skill? Maybe you always wanted to learn a new tech framework, but you haven't have time to do that during work. So I think all these kind of setting personal goals actually helps you just feel motivated when you come back to your daytime job. Yeah, and also projects that you want to build. I think we are, oh, okay, sorry, let me stop here. Nikruka, sorry if I pronounce your name wrongly. You raise your hand. Do you want to speak?
Nah, I think that was a mistake. You can go ahead, Victoria.
Okay, yeah. So let me also, actually, I can stop here so that I can answer some questions. So thanks all for the questions. I think this has been a really interactive session so far. So yeah, let me answer the question. So thanks for this presentation. It's great. Ask if one can work under pressure. Does it imply working without burnt out? Can this question be answered positively? Yes. Oh, okay. This is a good question, Kia Biri. I'm sorry if I pronounce your name wrongly. But yeah, so working under pressure, it just means like, can you work productively within like a time pressure? Usually when they mean pressure is obviously time pressure, because that's what companies do. So basically, can you work productively within a timeline? I think that's what it means. Obviously, some companies, they imply that means you're gonna be working overtime, but that's why you can actually clarify it. So if the interviewer asks you, can you work under pressure? You can clarify. You say, is there any implications that this company is, supporting overtime? And if I'm working overtime, do I get compensated for it? Because I know some companies, they don't do that, right? And again, many people have the mindset that you owe the company. So they willingly work overtime, even though they don't get compensated at all, which is ridiculous. So yeah, it actually does not imply working without burnt out. It just implies about the timeline. So yeah, burnt out, again, it happens differently for different people. There's different causes. So if you think you're the type who gets burnt out by work when you are working under like this strict, tight schedules, then maybe try to ask the person who's like interviewing you, ask like, what is the expected working hours? And how you can like arrange yourself to be like working productively around that. Yeah. And yeah, so how can this question be answered positively? I think I just gave an example. So yeah, you can try something like that. But basically show that you're open to it, just not like, just clarify better, like what kind of working conditions is it, like, like about the overtime and all that. So yeah, thanks for the question. Next is Nathan. Is playing music continuous via headphones as I work good for mental health? So this is another good question. So for me, what I read from deep work, it depends on the person. So deep work is something that basically, again, is undisturbed focus work. So for some people, they can do better when music is playing in their headphones, right? They can listen to music, they enjoy the work more. Then I say go for it. Because yeah, if you enjoy it, it will definitely improve your mental health. But some people, they can't work with music. They will maybe choose white noise, or maybe just rain environment noise. So yeah, it depends on the person. So yeah. Okay, thanks for the question. So Jonathan, how do you set a work boundaries when your boss think you should be working even out of stipulated time in your employment? Yeah, this is also another good question. So I think I always ask about company culture whenever I choose my job. Like I've been in different jobs, but every time when I went into the interview process, I don't ask, it's not about the interviewer asking me, it's also me trying to find out more about this job, right? So I see interviews as like a two-way communication thing. So I usually find out like, what is the company policy? So first of all, what's the working hours? What's the expected working hours? Next is also the culture, right? I think some bosses, they have that culture of like, they expect you to work outside of your working hours. Then that's not really something that you want to do, right? Like that's obviously something no one wants to do. So I think this is where communication really plays a huge part in solving this kind of issue, like this kind of workplace boundaries. I think you need to basically talk to whoever's in charge, your boss or someone, say that this is something that, you want to work on. You want to work on your work-life balance, basically. So it really depends how you approach it, I say, but this is something you definitely have to communicate if that's something that's causing your burnout. So yeah, thanks for that question. Yeah, I hope that helps at least a little bit. So yeah, okay, there's another one. So from Yusuf, how do you find some of the projects to volunteer on? How do you find some of the projects to volunteer on with your line of work? Volunteer on. So actually there's a lot of people on, I'm quite active on Twitter. So actually Tech Twitter is a huge community. You can even ask Bami about it. That's how I met her through Tech Twitter. There's always things to do there. There's a lot of people promoting their products. There's a lot of people promoting meetups, volunteer groups. You can definitely find something for you. I would say it's quite a jungle to navigate though. So try through mutual friends. I think that's the easiest way. So for me, how I got into Women Who Code is through a mutual friend. Like she advised me, like, this is a really good group, non-for-profit organization. This is definitely something that is within like your purpose, your cause, and that's how I volunteer for it. So yeah, thanks for that question. So Mark, can burnt out lead to depression? Yes. So this is a definite yes. Burnt out can lead to depression, anxiety, and other mental health conditions. That's why it's not supposed to be taken lightly off. Again, I think back in my days, like my early days of work, a lot of people say burnt out is a myth. Like it's just your feeling, like they invalidate you for feeling burnt out. They just feel like, oh, you're just not resting enough, or oh, it's just not real. But it is real. So World Health Organization has already said that this is a real syndrome and it can lead to these more serious conditions. So that's why don't take burnt out lightly. Yeah. Thank you for your question. Okay, so I've reached my final tip, which is about the work-life boundaries. But now I want to get into building that resilience, that coping mechanism. So how you can actually start just building a better, a tougher self, basically, so that you can face any like workplace stress like more effectively. So building resilience and coping skills in the workplace. So what is resilience? Resilience does not mean that you are immune to burnt out. No, resilience means that you will bounce back, you will overcome burnt out faster than most people. So that's what the resilience mean in this sense. So the first thing that I say is develop a positive mindset. It's easy to like see like, oh, you are lacking so much at work. It's easy to undermine your successes. But I say you need to always celebrate small successes. So anything you do, maybe you fix one bug, you're happy about it. Yeah, just take a break, reward yourself. So having that positive mindset actually goes a long way because, again, part of the causes of burnt out is that negative kind of feelings, caused by workplace stress. So if you actually develop a positive mindset, it can help mitigate some of that. Next, I mentioned this before, but practicing self-care. So good physical health can help you take care of your good mental health. So again, self-care, so physical health, such as your eating healthy, sleeping well, exercising. So being out in nature, 20 minutes a day. So all these kind of self-care habits can actually help improve mental health and also build resilience. So the third one, I think I briefly touch upon it, but this one I shall elaborate more. But basically, you need to foster a supportive work culture with coworkers. So with my team, we recently have like a new manager, like actually last year. Yeah, so we had a new manager last year, and she's always fostering collaboration within our team members. We always communicate with each other, share information with each other, whether small or big. And actually that brings us closer together as a team. And she also organizes a lot of team bonding activities, which really helps us just be more comfortable with each other. So we can ask for help when needed, and then we can offer help when they need it. Also, we get to acknowledge credit more. So when someone did something amazing, we would feel more comfortable just like, congratulating that person, because we're already like really close. I think that actually will make your work more enjoyable, because if you work with people who you like, definitely it's something that will help your mental health. So the next one would be setting achievable goals in your workplace. So usually you'll feel overwhelmed in your workplace when someone gives you like a huge task, like something you have to do, and then like you feel overwhelmed because it seems like a huge task and it seems like you'll never get it done. So by setting smaller achievable goals, I think breaking it down to like a huge task to smaller actionable steps, I think that helps you actually prioritize which one needs more attention first, and then which one you can prioritize later. That actually kind of help you organize in your mind and help you be less overwhelmed in your workplace. So that's what actually I always do within my work and even my side hustles, is I always need to prioritize which one comes first, which one can do later, because again, I have so many things to do. It's kind of hard to actually, like, if I look at it as a whole, I will be overwhelmed as well, right? So that's why by breaking it down to smaller steps and then seeing the timeline, like which one you want to do first, which one you can prioritize later, that actually helps you feel more organized and more productive in the long run. So the fifth one would be to seek feedback from coworkers. I think this is for those who feel burnt out because they feel stagnant at work. They feel like they're not moving forward in their work. That can actually also lead to burnt out. So actually how you can mitigate that is by seeking feedback from coworkers. So I would say this is something that needs time to practice. Of course, you need to be comfortable enough with your coworkers to actually ask for feedback. But yeah, this is something that I've done a lot lately with my coworkers, is after meetings, after maybe I presented something, I would always ask them, how I do. Is there anything that you can give me that I can improve on? Because I always want to know, like, if there's anything that I can improve on. So yeah, actually, maybe after this talk, feel free to also send me your feedback, maybe through Bami or someone. But yeah, I would like to know, if there's anything I can improve on, because maybe the slides, maybe the text is too small, maybe I'm talking too fast. That would be something I really appreciate. And yeah, you can be as savage as possible. I'm okay with it. So yeah, seek feedback, basically. That's how you improve. 6 is stay mindful of your stress level. So again, I'm emphasizing this once again. This is how you can build good coping skills in the workplace. If you understand yourself, why you're stressed, and you understand your level of stress, that actually helps you cope better in the workplace. And the next is focus on what you can control. I think a lot of times we get stressed, we get frustrated from people because we can't control how people treat us. We can't control their behaviors, their thoughts, everything. So by focusing on what you can control, you will feel more, in a way, liberated in a sense, because that's what you can do right now for yourself. So again, focus on what you can control, which is what? Your mental health, your own personal boundaries, your own personal goals that you can set. So by doing that, you're focusing less on like caring about what other people think of you, what other people do to you, like basically things that you cannot control. Yeah, so that is something that can actually help you build that resilience and that good mental practice. So yeah, actually, I'm now, if there's no questions, I have come to the end of my presentation. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening. You can find me on Twitter. That's my Twitter handle. And you can find me on my website, low-victoria.com. So yeah, thanks again for inviting me. I'm happy to answer any last-minute questions if anyone has any. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, it was so informative. Thank you very, very much. And I can literally just like relate to it all what you're saying. Can we just please give Victoria a good clap in the chat, please? Thank you very much, Victoria. Thank you. That was an amazing session, right? Because I actually like I can relate. I've been in that phase before, and I even took a while there before I was able to like get out of it. I think I put it in one of my hair in review because it was really a lot for me at that time. I was literally burned out. I didn't have motivation to do anything, and the worst part of it was that I actually kept it to myself mostly because it took me a while before I was able to talk to someone about it, and it was a long time past, and it was really exhausting. It is something I don't wish anybody should go through because it's not it at all. So now I am like really talking about mental health and burnout because I really know what I went through and I don't want anyone to go through that anymore. And again, that is one of the things I love about Tunga because you were talking about fixing virtual coffee, and that is one thing we do at Tunga. We usually have this session called Fika where we can just have a one-on-one chat and get to know our colleagues just outside of work. And we also like there is also like room for I think there was one time that I felt like my eating habit was not good. I've not been eating very well. And I reached out to my manager and I was like, I want to fix a break time on my calendar. He said, okay. He was like, oh yeah, you can go ahead. So I think we are like that flexible, and that's something I'm super, super grateful for with the Tunga policy and culture. It is amazing. And if everyone here was here on Monday, you will remember Renee, our sports speaker, talking about how culture we eat strategy for breakfast. So the culture of your company is really, really important. All right. So you should always check through it. Thank you very much once again, Victoria, for that amazing session. It was wow. It was really insightful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for the
a lot.
audience for asking a lot of questions. I think they asked a lot of valid questions, and it shows that I'm really glad. Actually, can we take?
I think there are more questions actually. So yeah, can we do that now?
Yeah, let us take these questions. So yeah, Francis is asking, this one is a bit funny. How does one differentiate between burnt out and feeling a bit lazy? Ha ha ha. Yeah, so laziness, I would say it's a habit. It's sloth is one of the 7 deadly sins, actually. It's not something that you should get used to. Feeling lazy is just, I think, like personally for me, if I'm feeling lazy, it's just because, yeah, I just don't want to do it. I just don't want to do something. I'm procrastinating, right? It's different from burnt out. When I was burnt out, it's not because I feel like it's not just because I don't want to do it, but it's because I just don't know why I'm doing this. I'm losing that motivation. So it's more internal. It's something that I internalize. Whereas lazy is a bit more like, oh, I'm just not in the mood for it or something. So yeah, burnt out is definitely something. And burnt out is a bit more ongoing. So you can feel lazy like once in a while, but burnt out is something like you are always feeling. Like, at least that's when I was facing burnt out. I'm always feeling like I'm questioning why I even do this. Like, is it worth my time? Or like, I'm just not motivated enough to do it. Like, that's what I feel when I'm burnt out. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Next, Joseph, could you share the link to your presentation, please? Yeah, of course. I'm gonna send it to Bami and then she can maybe share it with everyone. Yep. So, yep, Joseph, thanks for your question. And then Anonymous, they ask, is it possible for organizations to set up policies that will protect the clients from burnt out? Like some countries only work 4 days a week. Well, this is a question I don't think I can answer because it depends from company to company, from country culture to country culture. But yeah, I would say the best thing that you can do is, at least before, like when you're called in for an interview, when you're applying for a job, it's not just the company trying to like hire you as someone that they need, right? They're also looking for someone that fits their company culture. So at the same time, you should look for the company that fits your own culture, right? Your own personal values, basically. I always find whenever I'm in interviews, it's always me also asking them a lot of questions. I'll prefer a bunch of questions for the company as well. So it's not just them asking me questions. So yeah, basically that's the best you can do, is find out which organizations would be the best fit for you. Yeah, thanks for the question. So Mark, can examination anxiety lead to burnt out? examination anxiety. So basically you're anxious for exams. I think this one is slightly different than burnt out because exam anxiety is, I know that a few of my close friends have that before, but it's not burnt out, right? Burnt out is the condition of feeling loss of motivation and negativism and all that stuff that I talked about. Whereas examination anxiety is particularly just during examination season. So it would be slightly different, but I would say if your examination anxiety, that is something that you should also definitely look at, something that you shouldn't ignore, and try to talk to a professional or someone that can help you overcome that anxiety. But yeah, I would say it depends on the person if it can lead to burnout. I'm not a professional in examination anxiety, so I'm not too sure. Yeah, but thanks for the question. So Christian asks, how do I stay motivated on coding projects as someone with ADHD? Okay, so this is also something I don't think I can give you the best answer because I am not someone with ADHD. I think maybe this is just my assumption. I'm sorry if it's wrong, but if you have ADHD, I'm assuming it's because you can't stay focused for very long periods of time. Then I would say just break it down into like small, short, but intense coding sessions. So maybe 30 minutes at a time, you have a goal. Maybe you want to build this particular, like you want to create this particular website. So just one feature, something like maybe you want to be, 20% done in 30 minutes or something. So set these small coding sessions to help you set the small milestones. I think that can help you. It can actually help anyone just to stay on track by having that small milestones. But yeah, thanks for the question, Christian. So yeah, I think there's no open questions for now.
Is there any other question? Can you like raise your hand to speak or something? Yeah, it has been wonderful. I agree with you with that.
Come on.
So
Mark, thanks so much. Jonathan, thanks. Everyone, thanks so much. I think this has been a great crowd as well. Thanks so much, Bami. And
yeah.
Pronounce your name Ade.
Ade.
Sorry.
That's fine.
Can I give you a nickname?
You
Ade.
can call me Kelvin as well. That's fine.
Kelvin.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So thanks.
Much easier, yeah. Thank you so much for the session.
Yeah, so thanks. This is something I really like. It's personal to me as well because I felt it. I think it's something that I really want more people to be aware of, that it's not just temporary feeling, that it's not just a myth, but it's something that we have to take into account.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It is. So Victoria, I think we have one more question before you leave.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's actually night time for me.
Yeah, I know, right?
So how would you advise somebody entering a workforce desperately and not caring about the company culture? Because most of us in Africa are trying to make a life fast. Understand. But I wouldn't say you cannot totally ignore company culture, right? Like look at Bami and Kelvin, like they're in such a great company, right? Like you guys have coffee chats and all that. I think it's always about options, right? Discovering more options. It's not like you shouldn't just be focused on like, oh, this is my only chance. Like I think a lot of us, when we just start out in our workforce, like in our careers, we always think that we only have this one company that we want, like only one choice. But actually, if you keep an open mind, there's actually more companies that will suit you better. So I would say, yeah, just try to keep looking for those companies. I'm sure there is. Yeah.
There is. Awesome. There are a lot of them. Thank you very much, Victoria. Thank you very much for that amazing session. And thank you for sharing your experience with us. I'm sure if we want to give the open mic for people to share their experience, there will be a lot of people to say something. And the full fact is that Victoria is actually time zone is actually like 10 p.m. Night right now. So can we all just please give her a special thank you once again. Thank you very much, Victoria. You can unmute to say thank you. I wouldn't mind. Thank you very much, Victoria.
Tunga team as well for organizing.
Yeah, thank you for taking out your time to attend this session. I really, really do appreciate, like, my sincere appreciation. Thank you very much. Okay, I know you said you have other engagements right after this, so if you want to leave, you can as well leave. We still have business with the attendees, so we will just keep on with it. But thank you very much, Victoria. I really appreciate this. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all so much for being such great. Sorry, I think Joseph wants to say something.
Okay, Joseph.
I think he unmute just now for a second.
Yeah, I heard that too. But yeah, Joseph, are you saying something?
Yes, I was just thank you very much, Victoria. It was indeed informative. The last part on how to build resilience, focus on something which you can control, is something which I've been employing in my daily routines. I just wanted to remind Bami to ask for the presentation link if you won't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much.
Sure. I think I've been saying this since on Monday that I'll be sharing all the presentation link from Monday to today, on Monday to you all, and we'll be sharing it together with the link to watch all the recordings again all over. If you think you want to watch any part of it, or you miss any session at all, you can always go back to watch it. So the email will be going out to you on Monday, so you'll be receiving all of the presentation links. Not to worry. Joseph, thank you once again, Victoria.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone. I wish you really good self-care practice. So yeah, don't get burnt out. Okay,
yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.